Now, our sixth survival technique is applying the power of one. What that means is we want to make sure that everything is at a single focal point and that we have one source of information. So does your critical information fit easily on one screen? Can users view the entire picture, the entire dashboard, the whole visual entity without having to scroll? And what information are you showing that can be relocated to a drill down category? There's a constant battle and back and forth between what's enough and what isn't enough. A lot of times you're seeing data that has months and months of data on, you're reporting, on a monthly level, 3 different attributes and 5 different metrics in a grid. Well, that's really valuable information to know maybe at one point, but as an overview or an initial stage, is that much necessary? Maybe not. So you need to ask yourself if that is critical. And if it's not, maybe we can drill to it. So with that being said, these grids are exactly that. We're showing on a monthly level category and subcategory performance, revenue, profit margin. So yes, this data is important. Same thing with the supplier performance. But do we need to show all this right now? Probably not. But what we can do to make this a lot more easy to navigate, a lot more easier to read, is we can add filters, a selector control that allow us maybe to break down the grids and graphs on a certain attribute, a certain dimension. And if you remember initially, we discussed that the whole purpose of this dashboard was for the category managers to see category and subcategory performance on a regional level. So maybe adding a region filter would make more sense. And then maybe even a category filter would also make sense. So knowing that, that's exactly what we did. We now have a category filter, a selector control, and a region selector control that filters the data in a very specific fashion, but also in a logical sense. So now we can compare or just look at specific regions and specific categories. Doing that, because I'll go back to this original dashboard here, because we were showing all the categories in this top right graph, and now we added a category filter, we can change the graph type and we can change the size of the graph and how much space it takes. Since we're only showing one category at a time, it makes sense maybe to do, in this case, a horizontal bar graph to show this year's revenue versus last year's revenue. And we can see that in every region, we can see that in each category, and it's a much better way to view the information. And knowing, too, in the same fashion that a logical way to break down these data grids wasn't maybe in a monthly fashion. So now we're showing monthly data for each category in each region. Now, just by adding a few very simple filters, you can see how much of a big difference it was in screen space and how much information we're showing in the same amount of space. So playing with things like that, that's important. It's important to remember that everything should be at a single focal point and that we don't want to scroll on the dashboard. Scrolling should be the biggest no-no. There's a disconnect the user has if they have to view one piece of information, scroll to the right especially, or scroll down and see another piece of information that's related and correlated with one another. They should be able to see that in the same view just by viewing, with their eyes, not having to scroll. Exactly what I was saying. Conclusions formed are much easier to make when the data is at a single focal point. Another way to attack those bottom data grids, instead of doing it on a monthly filter, we could utilize drilling as well. Maybe we can select those particular categories and see all the month's performance for that category. We want to make sure that we're not showing so much data where it overwhelms the user. We just want to show them enough. Use selectors, filters, basically. It allows you to segment the data in a logical fashion, and you can be very specific and creative in how you do it. So really, to one degree, it's up to your imagination to filter it in a certain way. So play around with it and make sure that you're doing it in a logical